I just spent the last 2 whole days researching 50mm lenses for my new A7S III and trying to decide on which one to order. Today I'm sharing a quick summary of my findings for the 5 available lenses, why I chose the one I did, and hopefully helping you decide on which lens is right for you. Hello everyone, my name is Tim Stolars, and I'm happy that all the nitpicky details I learned about these lenses will be put to further use, and this video may help you decide quicker on which lens to buy yourself. There is no shortage of options at the 50mm focal length for Sony full-frame mirrorless cameras, so this was a difficult one that I went back and forth on quite a bit. The available lenses I did my research on are the Sony 50mm 1.4, 1.8, as well as the Sigma and Rokinon 1.4, as well as the Sony 55mm 1.8. Going from the cheapest to the most expensive, we are starting with the Sony 50mm 1.8, the Nifty 50. This lens is affordable, retailing for only $200 US. With that affordability comes compromises in the quality department. However, it still has a lot to offer. This lens is light, weighing in at only 186 grams. It has good native autofocus, and although its image quality is not the best, it's probably good enough for most applications. The most significant cons for the lens really only become apparent when you crop in, where its lack of sharpness and chromatic aberration are much worse than the other lenses on this list. In addition, because the lens only has 7 aperture blades, the least out of all the lenses on this list, its bokeh isn't as circular and is less pleasing, which really is quite subjective anyways. Other negatives to consider would be its almost entire plastic build, and that the lens has a slight telescoping when it's focusing. Making a pretty significant jump up in price, we have the Rokinon coming in at $700. Unfortunately, from the many videos and articles I reviewed, it seems to be the one that offers the least performance. But the lens is still the second cheapest, the third lightest, and from what I gather has image quality that is slightly better than the 50mm Sony 1.8. It weighs in at 585 grams and has 9 aperture blades. The cons for this lens are its fairly bad and inconsistent autofocus, the color reproduction being the worst out of all the lenses, and its only slight improvement in image quality over the cheapest lens on this list while being double the price. Given this info, I think it's pretty clear that this lens was easy for me to remove from the running. A smaller jump up of $100 gets you into the Sigma 1.4, which all in all is a really good lens. It has great image quality, a solid build, a mechanical focus mechanism when compared to most Sony focus-by-wire systems, and the lens has the shortest minimum focusing distance of 15.75 inches when compared to the standard 17.7 inches of 50mm lenses. And with all these pros, it's still almost half the price of the most expensive lens on this list. The cons are that it's the heaviest and longest lens, coming in at 815 grams. The autofocus is decent but not the best, especially for video. And probably worst of all, I've seen quite a bit of negative reviews about Sigma support. This is a non-issue if you never have any trouble with the lens, but it makes me less confident with considering it as a potential buy. Moving up another $100 gets us back into native glass at a slightly tighter focal length, the Sony 55mm 1.8. Overall, a very good lens with exceptional image quality, seemingly the best autofocus out of all the lenses, and it's light but still has a quality build. The lens only weighs 281 grams and has 9 aperture blades. Cons for the lens are that it's not a 1.4, it's slightly higher price tag, and it has a non-linear focus-by-wire system which many people find frustrating. And unfortunately, worst of all, it has a design flaw that makes the lens break more often than other lenses. Apparently, a part of the focusing mechanism is held together by a small application of glue that breaks down enough times to show up in several cases. Given Sony's rather limited 1-year warranty on lenses, you have to decide if you're comfortable rolling the dice on the longevity on this lens and potentially paying for maintenance upkeep. Last but certainly not least is the Sony Zeiss 50mm 1.4, coming in at a staggering $1,500 US, by far the most expensive lens. But with that price tag comes a lot of good characteristics. I would say the consensus is that it has the best image quality with consistent sharpness from the center of the frame to the corners, the only lens to have an aperture ring, as well as 11 aperture blades that form more rounded and pleasing bokeh. In addition, although it is a focus-by-wire like most Sony lenses, it is linear, more precise, and the autofocus seems to be very good, which is expected from a native lens. Cons for the lens would mainly be centered around its price tag. You could say that it is slightly heavier at 780 grams, and it also lacks a focus hold button that more recent G Master lenses have. So those are the 50mm lenses, and as you can see, there is a lot to consider for each lens. The cheap Sony 1.8 is the lens that just might be good enough, and given its affordability was one of the lenses I kept coming back to most often. As I said earlier, the Rokinon was a lens I removed from consideration pretty quick, but that still left 3 others. The Sigma has a lot of good going for it, with its competitive price and great image quality, but the autofocus and the headaches of potential warranty claims made me less excited about the lens. The Sony 55 almost seemed like the perfect lens. A lot of people had so many good things to say about it, and I even saw some debate as to if it was better than the Sony Zeiss 1.4. But that design flaw makes me concerned about dealing with potential repair costs during the life of the lens. Putting money aside, the Sony Zeiss 1.4 seems to be the least compromising lens out of the bunch. For me personally, the Sigma was the next lens I removed from consideration due to its autofocus, as well as its size, weight, and the lack of confidence people have in Sigma support. Then I decided the 55mm was also not for me because of that one small detail that robbed it of being a perfect lens. That left the cheapest nifty 50 and the most expensive Sony Zeiss. I just kept coming back to the 1.8 being good enough for most applications. I'm shooting video for the most part, so there will be no pixel peeping there, but I do still want to use it for photos. I have a cheap Nikon 50mm 1.8 and I found some info stating they were similar in image quality. By all means, it is definitely good enough with providing that professional shallow depth of field look. But when I did crop in, I always felt it lacked in the sharpness department. In addition, if I picked up the cheaper lens, it would give me the opportunity to buy another focal length that would broaden my collection and options for shooting. In the end, I decided on what I think is the least compromising lens, the Sony Zeiss 1.4. It cost an arm and half a leg, but I think in the long run it will be the right choice. Its image quality is the best, has reliable focus, an aperture ring, and the most pleasing bokeh in my opinion. The quality is simply unmatched at this time. So those are the Sony 50mm lenses. I've included links down below to several of the most useful videos I found testing these lenses in detail. I hope I was able to provide some useful information that will help you make a more informed decision. If I did help, it'd be great if you could hit that like button, and while you're down there, let me know in the comments below what you think the best lens would be for you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.